Welcome back to a course on calculus RS integration. In this lecture, we are going to see a theorem which states that f is given a bounded function on a closed interval ab, and this f has finitely many points of discontinuity, which means f need not be continuous everywhere in the interval a comma b. It may be discontinuous at some points, and the collection of those points has to be some finite set. Okay, be it large finite set, that is no bother, but it has to be some finite set, and alpha is given to be a continuous function at every points at which alpha is continuous at every point at which f is discontinuous. If this is so, then we'll have to prove this f is rs integrable. Okay, let us start the proof. Okay, let us take some arbitrary epsilon and let supremum of this absolute of f of x to be m. Okay, f is bounded, that is given, right? So whenever f is bounded, this means we are able to identify the infimum of f and supremum of f such that your f value lie between these things, right? Equality holds, and given f is discontinuous at finitely many points, and those points, let us take it as the collection of a1 a2 etc till ak, and this collection we take it as e. Okay, now here we may see that this set E is finite and alpha is continuous at every point of E. So we can find some disjoint intervals in A, B such that this E can be covered by these things. Suppose, let me give you a graphical idea. This is our interval AB. Okay, in between we have some points like this. Okay, and AK is this. For each point in set E, we are able to identify some intervals of this sort, by which when you make union of these intervals, your E is going to be contained in this union. Right? That is how we have done. And these intervals has to be chosen in such a way that if you find this quantity, that is alpha of Vj minus alpha of Uj. Since alpha is monotonically increasing in this interval, suppose if this is my U1 V1, this is my U2 V2, this is my U3 V3, and this is our UK VK, then we can very well see that since alpha is monotonically increasing, we may see that alpha of V1 is going to be bigger than alpha of U1. So in this way, this is a positive quantity. The sum of these positive quantities has to be less than epsilon. We will have to identify these intervals in this way, right? Once we do so, we can place these intervals in such a way that every point of this is a segment, not an interval. Okay, every point of this E intersection the segment AB lies in interior of something. Okay, if you do so, there may be n points included in it, but we are not supposed to include this n points, and we take intersection of E with this segment AB. Okay, this is going to be a discrete set, and every point is going to be lie in some interior of uj comma vj, and we will have to remove that segment from the interval AB. Once we remove that, if we are going to remove it, which means what? We'll have to make the union of all such, this may also be written as A comma B minus union of ui comma vi, where I runs from 1 to k. Right? We will have to make union of all these segments, and we have to remove that from the interval AB, and this may be written as this. Okay, this is in a simpler notation, this is what union of these sets, that's it. Okay, and what is this? This K is a finite union of all these sets. Okay, actually we have only a finite number of sets in this. This is a finite union of closed intervals, hence it has to be a closed interval. Closed interval, right? That is a closed set. And all these sets are bounded, which means it has to be, this K has to be a closed and bounded one. So that is what we say, when some set is closed and bounded in a real line, that has to be compact, right? Now if you look at F is continuous everywhere on this set K, which is a compact set, which means that F has to be uniformly continuous function, using the result that F from X to Y is continuous and X is a compact metric space. Then F is uniformly continuous. We have seen this result when we have studied about limits and continuity. Using that result, we conclude that F is uniformly continuous here, since K is a compact set. And for given epsilon, using the definition of uniform continuity, we write this: for every epsilon positive, there is a delta positive such that absolute of the image is smaller than epsilon whenever this happens, right? And these entries has to be taken from K. Now we have to form a partition P with the following properties. In the partition P, all these endpoints has to be there in it. Okay, end points has to be there in it. That is how we define the partition, and no point of this segment has to be in P. Okay, if you look at this, what they are saying, if this is our interval AB, and let this be our U1 V1, U2 V2, and it goes this way, and this is our UK and this is our VK. The partition must include all the endpoints, and no point of this segment must be a member of partition P. We will have to identify in such a way that, and remember in the previous thing, here if you see, the sum of these distances has to be less than epsilon. Okay, this is going to play a major role here. What is it? If you see, all these distances has to be less than epsilon. Epsilon itself is a very small positive quantity, hence this one is not exactly like what I drew here, because that is going to be a very smaller, finer thing, even smaller than this quantity. So make sure that your partition does not contain any point of this segment P, right? And if xi minus 1 is not one of uj, then we have this. Okay, and we know supremum is smaller than absolute of this thing using the uniform okay, whenever this happens, this is going to happen, and this quantity is always smaller than or equals this quantity. Okay, now you may wonder supremum of f of s is smaller than or equals absolute of f of x. This is fine, but how come this happened? Okay, infimum of f, if you have infimum of f, then supremum of minus f is nothing but minus times of infimum of f. This is a result. Okay, using this result only we extend this case, right? And supremum of f of s is what? Mi, that we know, right? And supremum of minus f of t is going to be what? Minus times of infimum of f of t. Okay, this is what? This is mi in the subinterval. Okay, and supremum of f of t or f of s, we are just taking supremum of f and infimum of f. Okay, and using that thing we have this one. Okay, next considering up f alpha minus lp f alpha, by the definition we write this. By using the laws of summation we shall combine these things, and we are now splitting things into two cases. If xi is not one of this uj, this is going to happen. So this xi may be equal to uj or may not be equal to uj. If it is not equal to uj, then the second case follows, and if it is equal to uj, then the first case follows. Right? So if you take this as star, sorry, from the third one, we get this quantity to be less than epsilon, and this follows. Right? And we have initially taken m to be the supremum of absolute of f of x. What we are saying, absolute of that function is supremum. Sorry, supremum of the absolute of function is m, and this mi is the supremum of the function in the subinterval, and the small mi is the infimum of that function in the subinterval. So if you compare these things with the supremum of the absolute thing, this is going to happen. So from this, what we shall have is that mi minus mi is going to be less than 2m, right? And if you squeeze these things into this part, okay, here what you are going to get is that this is 2m. Okay, here actually this will give you less than 2m absolute of sigma delta alpha I, where xi minus 1 not equals equals uj, plus epsilon summation xi minus 1 not equals uj delta alpha I. Okay, and this shall be written as this quantity is a part of a summation, and this quantity is also a part of a summation of the whole summation delta alpha I, where I runs from 1 to n. So this is going to be less than 2m delta sigma delta alpha I plus epsilon sigma alpha I. So from this, if you take sigma alpha I as a common, okay, what is this? So this is 2m alpha of beta minus alpha of a plus epsilon alpha of beta minus alpha of a. Okay, if you take alpha of beta minus alpha of a as a common thing, then you are left with 2m plus epsilon, and since epsilon is arbitrary, we shall have this is smaller than some other epsilon. Okay, by the necessary and sufficient condition of RS integrability, we conclude that f is RS integrable. Thank you.